Hey everybody, welcome to the Love Monday podcast. We are up to episode 12 now. Do you know what that means? That means this has been going for 3 months. I'm pretty proud of myself. I thought about doing a podcast for a long time, and I just didn't think I had material for it, but it's working out that I am. Now, we are eventually going to move into having guests that can come in and talk about their perspective on how to love Monday just like Friday. But for now, we're just going to put out some content to get us started, to prime the pump, so to speak, and to get going. So I'm pretty excited. Episode 12, 3 months in. Please subscribe if you're listening to this so you can get all the new episodes. And this week, we're going to talk about kind of a continuation from last episode, from episode 11, and that was called Sometimes You Got to Look in the Rearview Mirror. And that one actually struck a chord with a lot of people. I got some good feedback on that one. I even went out and wrote a blog about it that you can find out on LinkedIn if you follow me on LinkedIn, and if you don't, I hope you will. I like to share a lot of information on LinkedIn and other social media as well. You can also find that blog at my website, lovemondaylikeFriday.com. So let's get into this week's episode. Incidentally, this is not a bleeped version. If you want a bleeped version, you're going to have to find another podcast, because every once in a while I'm going to let an expletive slip. And it's just who I am. I'm not going to try and be somebody I'm not. That is one of the mistakes that makes people hate Monday. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode. This week we're talking about, like I said, a continuation of last week. So last week it was sometimes you got to look in the rearview mirror. And the concept then was, if you're discouraged and down, a lot of times it's because we feel like at a point in time we're not making any progress. We look at the point in time, we're discouraged, and we feel like gloom and doom. I haven't made any progress my whole life. I'm in this shit situation, in this shit job, in this shit lifestyle, and I don't like it, and I'm not making any progress. Well, sometimes you gotta look in the rearview mirror. As a follow-up to last week's episode, I want to share a story from my daughter, who she was feeling discouraged, and she was the reason I actually did that episode. Not just for her, but I had talked to several people over that week that I did episode 11, and they were all feeling kind of the same. And it reminded me of a story which I told in that podcast episode about my snowboard instructor experience, and somebody who I told to look in the rearview mirror, and it changed his whole perspective. And I told my daughter to do the same thing in her situation. And she spent a week looking in the rearview mirror. And she came to me last Tuesday when we had our weekly conversation over the phone. And she said, you know, Dad, I had a really cool experience. Now, I moved to Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and I've been feeling like nothing has been working for me. I feel like I have lost ground. But she said, you know, when I looked in the rearview mirror, I had to admit I really gained ground. Now, she has been given the opportunity because of what she's done in her own, building her own brand in the fashion industry. Now, she works for someone else. She works in the fashion industry, but she's also working on building her own brand. And she's been hired by an online boutique owner to help set the style for this online boutique. And this online boutique owner is taking her to Magic Las Vegas, which is one of the biggest fashion trade shows there is. And she's paying Lauren's way to go there. What a cool experience. So when Lauren was feeling, the week before, when she was feeling discouraged, when she went back and looked in the rearview mirror, she could actually see that had she not made those moves and done the things she'd done, even though it's been really, really, really super hard for her, she would not have had that opportunity. She would not be going to Magic Las Vegas. So these are the things I'm talking about. So from that episode, I just wanted to follow up with that to kick off. But from that episode, what I don't want people to do is keep looking in the rearview mirror. It's good to look back and give ourselves perspective, particularly when we are discouraged. But you can't keep looking in the rearview mirror, because you're going to run into something. If you're driving your car and you're looking in the rearview mirror all the time to see where you've been or what's behind you, you're going to run into something. And you might run into something you don't want to run into. So we got to have a deliberate focus on the road. So this week we're talking about, now that you've looked in the rearview mirror, you got to keep your eyes on the road. Not only that, you need to define where you're going. Because when you define where you're going and you set a firm intention and set goals around where you're going and really envision yourself being there, you're going to align things to the point that you actually end up being there, and probably a whole lot sooner than you thought you would have. Now that we've looked in the rearview mirror, I want you to shift your focus. This week, we're going to talk about shifting your focus out the windshield, keeping your eyes on the road. After you've looked in the rearview mirror and you've really kind of gotten grateful for how far you've come when you thought you hadn't been making progress, when you look back out through the windshield and get your eyes on the road, you're going to find the road has changed. And it's a much cooler road because all of a sudden you're saying, hey, I was really heading in the right direction. And I'm headed in a good direction. Not only that, I want to do more. I want to do a whole lot more than where I thought I was going when I was just kind of letting stuff happen. I've been reading a really cool book called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he talks about these concepts in there. I highly recommend the book. I might touch on a few things during this episode on that. But that's one of the things he talks about is how when you set those intentions, you align your emotional energy, because there's this energy field that surrounds everything. It's true. I'm not making this stuff up. It's not mystical. It's stuff that it's measurable. And he talks about how they measure that. But when you align your energy and you have a higher level, a higher vibrational energy, your wavelength is much tighter because you're focused on things like joy, and you're focused on things like making progress going forward as opposed to just letting life happen, then you can really start to align yourself with things that are going to be in your path. And you're going to actually change that road you're looking at out the windshield. So when you keep your eyes on the road, like I say, you've looked in the rearview mirror, now that road is going to look different. It's going to be fun. It's going to have twists and turns. It's not going to be just some long, straight black road into oblivion and you don't even know where it's headed. You're just on it because it's a road and you're in a car. And so you figure you ought to be on a road going somewhere. Well, get intentional about where you're headed. Now that you've looked in the rearview mirror, and if you haven't, go back to episode 11, listen to that, and listen to the 5 questions that I have you ask yourself so that you can start to really look effectively in the rearview mirror. Answer those questions and then come back to this episode. Because today we want to talk about where you're headed. So since I did that episode and I've written the blog, I've had quite a few people come back to me and say, I've experienced this. I have looked in the rearview mirror and it has changed the road for me. It's now I have this brighter outlook and it's actually making me aspire for more. It's giving me a more aspirational vision as to where I want to be headed. And that is an important thing for you to do. If you haven't done that, if you don't really know where you're headed and you're just going to work every day and you're coming home every day, because that sort of becomes our routine. We wake up, the alarm goes off, we get up, we make our coffee or our breakfast, we make the bed, we get dressed, we go to work, we work, doing the same thing we did yesterday and the same thing we're going to do tomorrow. Then we come home, we eat dinner, we spend some time with whoever we live with, our partner, our family, whomever, and we go to bed, and then we start the whole thing over again. Never with much intention as to where we're headed. Now, some people are really good at doing this, but others aren't. And whether you're a believer or not, it actually is the truth. It actually happens. I've been doing it all my life. I never called it manifesting because I never knew what that was or heard of it until I was probably 45, 46 years old and somebody introduced the topic to me. I always called it daydreaming because from the time I was a small boy, what I found I had a knack to be able to do is to focus on something that I really wanted to achieve or something that I wanted to have in my life or a friendship or a crush I had, and I could focus on that with such intention that it always came about. Really, without exception, it always happened. And I have come to believe that we get everything we want in life. You just have to want good things. So no matter what you have in life, where you are, if you're in a great situation or a shit situation, you get everything you want in life. I'm reminded of the movie Jack Reacher. It's one of the Jack Reacher movies with Tom Cruise. And there's this episode, there's this scene where he's in a bar and these guys come up and they try to pick a fight with him. They take him outside. They say, let's go outside and finish this. He said, okay. And then it's 5 against 1. And he said, remember, he gave him one chance to back out of it. And then he says, remember, you wanted this. And then he proceeds to, beat the crap out of them. But it's the same thing. I love that line from that movie because it's true. Whatever you got in life, remember, you wanted it. Now, you may say, Ryan, I am in a shit situation. I hate my job. I hate my house or my apartment or wherever I live. I hate my lifestyle. I hate my relationship. Remember, you wanted it. Now, you may not, now want's kind of a strong word, and you might be saying, Ryan, I did not want this. There's no way I wanted this. Okay, so let's throw out the word want. And let's say, remember, you thought you deserved this, and you also thought you didn't deserve any better than this. And so this is exactly what you got, because in that sense, you wanted it. It's all you thought you could want. So sad, but true, and you wanted it. So you just got to want better things. And this was really driven home to me in detail the day after my divorce. And I woke up that morning feeling like the day before I'd just gone through 8 hours of mediation, and I felt like I conceded a lot of things that I didn't want to concede. And I didn't like my situation. I didn't like it at all. I felt victimized. I played the victim until within just a few seconds, it hit me that no, I wanted that. I wanted to be able to move on. I wanted an escape path and an escape route. And so in the end, yep, some of the things I conceded, didn't want to, didn't think I wanted to, but in the end I really did. And it allowed me to move on. So at that point, I said to myself, that's when I developed this concept was, we really do get everything we want in life. And I was kind of beating myself up for only wanting that. Why didn't I want more in the first place? Had I felt more worthy of something better, I would have gotten it. But I do want to share an experience because you do get people who totally believe in this, and they believe in it because it happens for them. There's the experience that Jim Carrey shares about the like 2 years or however many years before. It was like 1990 or 92 or somewhere around there, where he was feeling like he wasn't making it in show business. He drives his car up looking over Los Angeles. He's up on Mulholland Drive, and he writes himself a check for $10 million payable November of 1994, whenever this was, puts it in his wallet. That was the intention he set. Well, that same month and year, whatever month and year that was, Dumb and Dumber came out, and he got a $10 million paycheck for that movie. So there's that one. That's a big one. And now I want to tell you, this is what we're going to talk about today, how you can really get there. And this is how you're going to change the road that you're looking out on. Now that you've looked in the rearview mirror, you're going to be looking out the windshield, keeping your eye on the road. And this road is going to be a new, fun, glorious, exciting road to be on. So if you're still rolling your eyes, I want to share a little story with you. And this is about 10 years ago, I would say. And I was embarking on my consulting career, where I had decided I'm going to go out and I'm going to help managers and teams and companies improve their employee engagement. And as I started doing that, I was out on a hike one day, because I used to hike every day, and I either walk or hike every day still. I was out on this hike, and this is how I get into this meditative state sometimes and start to envision things that I want to do. Well, I was on this hike, and for some reason, the thought crossed my mind that I needed to get I needed to get comfortable with video, with being on video. And this was in my mind because I had gone through this. I had been asked to speak at career day at my son's high school. And I was going to do this, and I was getting ready to do it. And I had somebody watch me as I presented what I was going to present there. And she took my phone and she said, well, hey, give me your phone. Let me just record you so you can see what you look like. And so I did, and it was horrible. It was awful. I didn't like my voice. I didn't like how I stammered and stuttered. And I thought I was a pretty accomplished speaker. I'd spoken at a lot of fairly sizable things. I hadn't done a lot of it, but I'd done some. And I hated that video. And that was her nice way of saying, I don't want to tell you, I think anyway, I don't want to tell you how bad you look, but if you see it on video, you'll know, and I won't have to say anything. It was with that video in mind that I was out on this hike, and I thought, I need to get comfortable with video. I didn't know how good I'd ever look. I didn't have much hope with that, but I needed to be able to present myself well on video and recordings. And so as I did that, I decided that's what I was going to do. And while I was on that hike, I took my phone out again and I started recording just something that I would typically teach people and coach them on. And I just started recording that. And again, I didn't like it, but I started using that as game film for myself, like a football team would. I started picking that apart and I started recording myself more and more. And I said, I can envision a time when I am seen on video or on television or something like that, and I'm gonna get good at this. And so that's what I set my intention to do. A few months later, I'm at this seminar in Phoenix, and one of the speakers at this seminar is a guy who helps people get on television. So he teaches you how to take whatever your message is and build a segment presentation that you can go and present to TV news producers and get on television. This guy really resonated with me. Anyway, I ended up hiring him as a coach, and it really turned my life around at that point. I got so much good instruction to look good on video. Well, long story short, I actually did. I wrote a book, A Passion for Monday. I've talked about it on this podcast before. And then I went out and promoted it on television. I traveled the country and went on the morning news in a lot of different cities and talked about the 3 mistakes that make people hate Monday, which now I've expanded to the 4 mistakes. But I talked about those things on television in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And I don't know how good I looked, but I was doing it. Well, make an even longer story short, I am now in a situation where I do record a lot of videos. I do a lot of stuff on social media, and I get some good response from that. I've got a reel out there that's had 3 million views. I've got others that have gone viral, and I'm really starting to do this. But it all came because I thought back 10 years ago, I said, I got to get comfortable with video. I got to feel good about it. I got to get really good at it. And I started working at it. So it isn't just something that happened, but what happened is I went along the way and I decided I could envision myself on television or making videos that people watched or just feeling comfortable on video. What I found happening was I started to have things fall in my path, like the guy I met at the Phoenix seminar. Video opportunities where I was interviewed for video podcasts, where I was interviewed for marketing videos for different companies and things like that. I had opportunities to do that. Now, I do that now for my Love Monday stuff. I also work for a software company where I get to evangelize their brand. So I am a frequent speaker at events that they take their products to. I've actually been told by several people that I've kind of become the face of that company because I'm in all the videos. I make a lot of those videos, but they're videos for marketing and things. And I have kind of become the face and the voice of the company, just kind of de facto. And it's really interesting for me now to look back in the rearview mirror and say, on that hike 10 years ago, I decided I got to get comfortable with video. And now I'm doing it every day. It's a concept I also talk about when I'm speaking or when I'm teaching or coaching called That Thing You Rocked. And this came from, I was speaking at an event and a lady came up to me after and was talking to me. And I was talking about peak experiences where time passes without notice. You have lots of energy. You can't wait to do that thing again when you have to stop. I'm talking about that, and she came up and she said, that resonated with me so much. I had a job a few years ago, and I was working at this place in Michigan, and I just really rocked that job. She told me all about it, and she could go on and on about it and she was all lit up when she was telling me. I've just taken that ever since, and I've called it that because that really resonated with me, because that's really what it is. When you're having a peak experience where time passes without notice, you know the steps of the process, it brings you energy, more energy while you're doing it than you had before you started, and you just can't wait to get back and do it again. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about that thing you rock. So what I want you to do, the first step this week, is I want you to think of something that matches that description. Time passed without notice. You had more energy while you were doing it than you did after or before. You knew how to do it. You kind of instinctively knew, and you just couldn't wait to get back and do it again. That's that thing you rocked. I want you to think about that for a minute. Pause this if you need to and think about something you really rocked like that, where you had that kind of energy. Now, After that, I'm going to suggest, you don't have to do this. You could just do it with the thing you rocked, but something that's really going to help you to understand why you rocked that thing you rocked is something called the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And I'm a certified coach. It's also known as StrengthsFinder. So you may have taken this at a job that you've had. You may know what your top 5 strengths are based on this assessment. It's something that's done by the Gallup organization. They are the owners of this, and you can go online, go to gallup.com or type in Clifton Strengths or StrengthsFinder, and you'll find this. It costs about $20 to take, and you find out your top 5 talent themes. I am going to suggest that you take that assessment if you haven't, that you take that and find out what your top 5 talent themes are. And then when you take it, or if you've already got one, go back and read a particular report called the Strengths Insight Guide. When you read the Strengths Insight Guide, that one is customized to you specifically. So say my top strength from that assessment is called Maximizer. If you have Maximizer as your number 1 or somewhere else in your top 5, and I read my Maximizer statement or description and you read yours, they're going to say different things because it's based on me and the answers I gave in this assessment. So you're never going to find another person in the whole wide world ever that has the same top 5 strengths as you that say the same things. So this is a really cool customized report. And it used to be called StrengthsFinder, and it's called the Clifton Strengths Assessment, but it's a measurement of talent, those talents that you were born with. And when you get that, when you take that thing you rocked and you couple it with the Clifton Strengths Assessment, you're going to know why you rocked that thing you rocked. So with the thing you rocked and the Strengths Assessment, start to go through that. And you're going to have a bunch of aha moments where you're going to find out, oh, that's why I rocked that thing I rocked. Now, once you have that, step 3 is to go and find 3 to 5 more things that you rocked. I want you to go do that. Find 3 to 5 more things that you rocked. Other jobs. It could be a whole job you had. It could be a task. It could be a project. It could be a school project you've had. But everyone I've ever met has had one of these things they rocked, at least one. And usually once we talk about it more, they can come up with 4 or 5 or 10 other things they rocked. And then the 4th step in this is to take all of those things you rocked and your strengths assessment and go back and look for common threads that you see in these things you rocked, because you're going to see common threads running through it. Like, oh, I was doing a lot of written communication here, or I was instructing people here, or I was coaching people here, or I was leading a team here, or I was doing creative work here. And I was doing that in all of these things. Creativity was the thread that ran through all of them. Or leadership was the thread that ran through all of them. Or public speaking was the thread that ran through all of them. And you'll be able to see those common threads, and you can wrap your fingers around those threads and say, this is the thing I really rock. This is going to point you to what I've talked about in a previous episode. Go back to episode 5. What's your zone of genius? That's what we're talking about. This is going to point you. These common threads and those things you rocked are going to point you to something that's going to look like your zone of genius, or it's at least going to give you hints into what your zone of genius might be. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to go through, find one thing you rocked. Take the Clifton Strengths Assessment so you know why you rocked that thing. Find 3 to 5 or more other things you rocked and apply the Strengths Assessment to those things. And then go back and find the common threads that run through all of those things you rocked. The creativity, the analytical work, the communication work, whatever it was, whatever those common threads are, that's going to lead you to what your vision is that you could build for as you look out the windshield now and keep your eye on the road. So then once you've done all of that and you kind of get a feel for the things you do really well, I want you to envision your best life. And this is where, again, if you're averse to manifesting, you can call it like I do, daydreaming. But start to write about that beautiful, perfect life you've got ahead of you. That day where you love Monday just like Friday, but for a different reason. Where do you live? Where do you work? Who are the people you work with? What is the work you're doing? All of those things, get really crystal clear in detail about what that looks like. And then I want you to meditate on that every day. Set some time aside for meditation. Maybe you can sit in a quiet place and meditate about it and really get that in your mind. Maybe you're laying in your bed and you're just thinking about that. Maybe you're going for a walk or a hike like I do, and you're envisioning that and you're thinking, yeah, here's where I'm going to live. Here's the type of work I'm doing. Here's what my work week looks like. I work 4 days a week, or I work 3 days a week, or I work 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, whatever that lifestyle is. And I'm in this relationship and I've got all of this going for me. I want you to get that beautiful future vision, because that's the road ahead. That's what we're talking about today. You're going to look out the windshield and keep your eye on that road, a very specific road that you want to be on, not just a long black straight road that leads to you don't know where. It just vanishes out on the horizon, and you don't know when you get to the horizon what it's going to be. It's probably more just long black road. So you want a road that you can define and you know where it's going to take you, so that when you get to that horizon, it's that beautiful day where you love Monday just like Friday, but for a different reason. Hey, I hope this episode has been good for you and it's been helpful for you. And I hope you will subscribe, and I hope you'll share this with your friends. If you want more information about this, you can go to my website, lovemondaylikeFriday.com. You can reach out to me, Ryan, at lovemondaylikeFriday.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can check out my book, A Passion for Monday. It's on Amazon.com. It's a really great book. Look for me in all those places. Go out on social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. Find me out there. I want to be able to help you love Monday just like Friday, but for a different reason. And this week, I want you to focus on the road ahead and keep your eye on the road. Now that you've looked through the rearview mirror, keep your eye on the road and let's get you there. Thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you soon.